thank you all for coming this evening. My name is Dave Dye. I'm a department chair and a professor at Grand Rapids Community College. I'm also proud to be an architect. There's 3 of us in the room. So, and thank you all for coming tonight. And then thank you all in the front row and throughout for coming in. And tonight we are gathering together to inaugurate a new agreement between Lawrence Tech and Grand Rapids Community College. This new agreement enhances student opportunities leading to a professional degree in architecture, a BS in architecture. We also welcome the opportunity to have Glenn Leroy, Dean of the College of Architecture Design at Lawrence Tech University, join us. And so to get events going, we don't dally too long here, Fiona Hurt, who's the Dean of School of Workforce Development, will have a few words. And then Fiona, let me say a little bit about her, who's my boss, has been an integral part of the team to get this agreement going. So thank you, Fiona.
You're very welcome. I'm going to give you a hug.
Okay, thank you, Fiona. Appreciate that.
These are moments truly to be celebrated. So thank you, David, very much. I appreciate that. And as David said, it's as a community college, we are always looking to partners to expand opportunities for students. And I just want to say thank you to you for all the perseverance and the hard work that you've done this. And I want to thank Amy Koning, who is our interim Associate Dean in the School of Workforce Development, for her assistance as well. But let me transition and introduce our president, Stephen Ender, who is Dr. Stephen Ender, who is the president, 9th president of Grand Rapids Community College. He has been with us for over a year and a half, so he is no longer qualified as new. But what he brings with him to this institution is a wealth of experience in workforce education, in developmental education. And we are very lucky to have him here, and we're very lucky to have his support for this program and the partnerships that we develop, not only in Grand Rapids, but also in our county, so, and beyond. So, Dr. Ender?
Well, good evening, and thank you, Fiona. After 18 months here, you're not new, you're seasoned, is the word that I would use. And David, do you have children? Yeah. I would have loved to have seen him when his wife announced, you know, David, we got to go to the hospital. Things are going to happen. He's been hopping around up here like a father that's expecting the first baby in the family. And I guess in some ways that is a little bit like the experience tonight as far as the work that has happened between these 2 institutions. And, you know, we have an opportunity tonight to really celebrate that work. I appreciate all of you coming out this evening, and especially for Dave, for the work that you've done. Tonight we're going to hear from another colleague, a new colleague, Mr. Glenn Leroy. One thing that I have learned about this institution is that we are partners and we are collaborators. There's a real spirit that we don't have to reinvent a wheel. There is a real spirit that we need to leverage whenever we can our resources with other resources, either locally or across the state. And at the end of the day, what can we do for our students to maximize, if you will, how they stretch their dollars and the use of their time to then develop the skill sets they need to go out and do the work they want to do in this world. I am very proud to be part of that relationship and to represent this college as its president. The program that we will talk about tonight has taken almost 2 years, I understand, to reach this point of signing documents. And we have now signed documents and we can officially launch the program. For the students in the room, I sense that you're here because you see an opportunity in front of you. I know in my own career that when those opportunities present themselves and you see a path, a bridge to walk across, walk and walk quickly, because you know that bridge might not be there tomorrow. So I'm really, really, really excited about the number of students that we have here to listen to our colleague, Mr. Glenn Leroy, and hopefully begin to think about how we begin to take our credentials and some of the work in the design studio that would be launched this fall I think it's this fall. That's correct, right? As we build this pathway to a degree in architecture. So I think I need to turn this over to David, who will introduce our speaker and talk, I'm sure, very eloquently about the program that's been developed and where this world of architecture might lead us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ender. Okay, I also, Fiona had some thank yous. I also have some thank yous for those who were involved with the team. Fiona Hurt was involved with making this all happen, as was Amy Koning, who's sitting next to her, Associate Dean, as was Rick Olson, who helped out on this project, as was Kathleen Owens, who helped out. Kathy Keating, I bothered many, many times as General Counsel, so thank you for her time to get this agreement in order. Charlotte Pease has always listened to all the things he hears me talk, and yeah, but you know, it keeps me rolling, so I appreciate that, Charlotte. Then Tom Boersma, who's not here tonight, who's in Orlando, was with me when we first came to look at the Lawrence Tech campus about 18 months ago. So he's also been involved with this. And then Ray Hinkle has been helping tremendously in terms of just promoting things and getting things out. So thank you all for that help in getting this off the ground. And I also would like to thank Glenn Leroy for traveling all the way from Lawrence Tech. I know this is not as far as you go to, say, China, but still it's a far piece to get here. I have gotten to know Glenn as we have worked on the agreement over the last 2 years. I've been very impressed by his positive energy and his vision for the future of architecture and architectural education. Thank you. Glenn Leroy has been Dean of the College of Architecture and Design at Lawrence Tech since July 2005. Before joining Lawrence Tech, Dean Leroy was a principal of Gould Evans Associates in Kansas City. From 1980 to 2002, he taught at the School of Architecture and Urban Design at the University of Kansas and led the Kansas City Urban Design Program from 1987 to 2002. And he was also 1986 president of the American Planning Association, Kansas City section, and was later elected president of the American Institute of Architects in Kansas City. As I said earlier, Glenn is the Dean of the College of Architecture and Design at Lawrence Tech. Now, this college, as I've said to many people, I know all my students have been hearing this for a solid year, but I will say it again, this college enjoys a rich tradition of highly regarded professional preparation. Over 44% of the licensed architects in the state of Michigan hold degrees from Lawrence Tech. So that's something to keep in mind. Among the hallmarks of Lawrence Tech University offerings are the award-winning Detroit Urban Studio, the Paris Study Abroad program, and also the China Study Abroad program, which Glenn Leroy is going to, in about 2 weeks, set up, and going over to China in 2 weeks, and also a college-wide commitment to sustainability and design construction, which we also have. Glenn will be talking about the world of architectural design and the global perspective tonight, and we will also discuss the Lawrence Tech and GRCC agreement. So, Glenn, please come up. Glenn Leroy. Thank you.
Thank you, David. David indeed has been David and the whole team here at GRCC have been terrific partners. Well, how many of you here among the students are in your first year here at GRCC? In architecture? Okay, how about the second year? Okay, and the rest of you are here for what reason? People didn't hold their hands. Extra credit, good. It's good and honest, I love it. Okay. You raise pragmatic people here at GRCC. I like it. Pragmatic and honest. Okay. Well, I'm here to talk tonight about the tremendous evolution that's been happening in the last decade or so in the field of architecture and the broader field of design, truly. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some decisions that once you leave here, if you want to pursue your education further, the kind of decisions that you need to go through in terms of selecting where you want to continue your education. I'll talk a little bit about our programs, and in reference to that, the agreement with GRCC. And then some things that, if you're early on in your curriculum here, the things that you really need to know to move on, to advance in terms of preparing yourself for a full design education. Well, how many people here have heard of Vitrivius? Oh, okay. So, Vitrivius. I'll go to the student. I take it you're a student? In the back? Held up your hand? Yeah. Okay. Vitrivius. Who is Vitrivius? A first century Roman architect? Yeah. Well, you know, early on in your education, you ought to hear about Vitrivius. And Vitrivius was one of the first great authors in the field of architecture. And he wrote the publication De Architectura. And he talked about three elements of architecture. Firmness, that meaning the strength and durability of the architectural element. Commodity, the function and utility. And delight, the aesthetic beauty. And that to have a complete architectural piece, you have to have all those three things. You can't take out one and have it be complete. But early in your architectural studies, you should learn about Vitrivius. The second, Da Vinci. How many people have heard about Da Vinci? All right. 15th, 16th century Italian artist, innovator, and an architect. And he wrote about or studied the divine proportion. That is, those elements of really geometric construction that create a proportion in design and in art that we deal with. Now, in the 20th century, how many people have heard of Andy Warhol? Okay, most of you here have heard of Andy Warhol. One of his most famous quotes is a 20th century artist, pop artist, filmmaker. Everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Now, all of a sudden, we've come from firmness, commodity, and delight through the divine proportion and being famous for 15 minutes. The world has definitely changed in the last couple of thousand years or so. And the way that things move, they move so much faster now. And as we're preparing as professionals, we really have to understand how rapidly the world is moving. Now, take a look at this collage, and I want you to look at a couple of things in it. I'm not going to take you through the whole thing, but who can identify the artist here? Okay, we'll go to the students first. Okay, and then barring the students, we're going to come to you. Okay, who? You held up your hand in the back. Mondrian, very good. And did a series of geometric constructions like this, Pierre Mondrian. How many people can identify that house? Okay, go ahead. Okay, Charles Ames. What? In California, yeah, just outside of Los Angeles. And anyone notice this conceptual similarity between the art and the house? The point being that architecture and art and the design arts are one and the same. The rules of composition are one and the same. And you can't look at, for example, that, which is a model of, in graphic design, parametric design model, and look at the work of Frank Gehry right under it here and say that these things are not related. And the fact of the matter is that you could not have even created that form without understanding parametric design. To bend these metal walls, those pieces of sheet metal there, you actually needed that model to do it. And it's very similar to the model that's used in automotive design. They do that in a model called CATIA. And that's the way that form is made. It's the same thing, the same way that forms are made in the automotive industry. So the point being that there are great relationships in all of the arts and design and architecture. Architecture is but another art. But there's been a tremendous evolution throughout the profession. So early on, we had apprenticeship. And apprenticeship was the way that architects learned from Vitrivius's time and even before on through the 20th century. Who can identify this right here? I'll point to it again. This one right here. Okay, someone said, I heard you. Say it. Sistine Chapel. Who was it painted by? Michelangelo, right. And he learned as an apprentice, but also he was a patron, or he had a patron, the Pope. And you had to have a patron in those days, a pope or a king or something like that if you were going to be an artist, and in his case, an artist/architect. He did many spaces and portions of buildings at the very least. How about Anyone, you may not know this one. This is pretty obscure, that picture. Can anyone identify where that picture's taken? Go ahead. No? But you're close. Okay, Frank Lloyd Wright. This is his model of Broadacre City. And I don't think Wright is in this picture, but the people around it were his students that he called apprentices. So you studied under the master as an apprentice. That's the way architectural education was. Excuse me. And so it was an apprenticeship for well into the 20th century. And the formal education in architecture and design, well, art education has been formal for quite a while, but in architecture dates to about the mid-19th century at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, and about 1880s in the United States at MIT was the first architecture school. So it's very, very new as a formal profession. So we moved from, let me see if this, nope, I'm going to go back one. We moved from this patrons and elite-sponsored master to today's model, small firms, large firms, multidisciplinary mega firms, and boutique firms. That's the way we practice today. I'm going to explain those a little bit more. But the underpinning of what we do as a professional today is licensure. Now we have at our school, we have 3 programs that lead to licensure. We have architecture, we have interior design, interior architecture, and wait a minute, that's 2. We have 2 licensure, 3 accreditations. Woo! Can't even remember my own school. By the way, to show you how many people have either read or seen The Fountainhead. That's a very famous movie and very famous book. This was the story about an individual against the collective, and it was loosely patterned against the life of Frank Lloyd Wright. And in the story, and the thing I always got into, because first time I think I saw the movie, I was already a practicing architect, and he was sitting waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for clients to call him and say, please, will you do these buildings? It ain't like that. If the clients are out there, you have to go get them. They're not coming to you. You're out there in the trenches going to get those clients. And maybe at one time it was standing around waiting. It isn't that way anymore. You actually have to run a business that's called architecture. So I was going to ask if you knew who these people were, but the names are up there. Everyone knew Frank Lloyd Wright before this, right? Everyone's heard of Frank Lloyd Wright. How many people had heard of Le Corbusier? Okay, about maybe half of you have heard about Le Corbusier. Okay, now, but here's the trick question. What do these 2 people have in common besides the fact that they were great, well-known architects of the 20th century? What do they have in common? It's about their education. Okay, I'll tell you. What's that? Neither had an architectural degree. Neither of them had an architectural degree. Frank Lloyd Wright studied a couple of years of engineering, dropped out, and he went to apprentice under a very famous architect by the name of Louis Sullivan in Chicago. Le Corbusier was a French-Swiss watch case engraver. He was an artisan. But yet they produced some of the most memorable architecture that the world's ever known. But neither of them had a formal education. Neither of them could practice in the state of Michigan today, nor get a license to practice just about anywhere in the United States. They can actually practice in Wisconsin, working under an apprenticeship agreement for 10 years. And that's about the only place in the United States that they could actually practice. I guess that's a good thing for Frank Lloyd Wright, who actually had his studio in Wisconsin. But neither of them, I mean, the world that they knew is long gone. And you have to deal with a different world, a different reality. So what is the world? What is the reality that you face in the design professions today? Well, every year I get invited, along with about 9 other deans in the country, to go to a group that's called the AIA, American Institute of Architects, Large Firm Roundtable. It's about the 60 or 70 largest firms in the United States. Many of them practice in multiple disciplines, so they'll have architects, engineers, urban planners, graphic designers, interior designers, a whole range of professionals in their firms. Just to get into it, you have to have over 100 practicing professionals in the firm, 100 practicing architects. Some of them are bigger, and some of them are actually truly huge. But last year, in the midst of the recession, and this year I can happily report to you that they say, we've stabilized, we're on our way back, we're growing this year, almost to a firm. They're growing again. Last year, they were just sort of in the doldrums, in shock about what had happened. But they felt much more confident about the future now. But here's what they said. In the future, our design practice will involve much more multidisciplinary teams. So it's not just about architecture, it's about the team of people that it takes to create buildings, places, spaces, all working together in the team. So, you know, when we put together projects, quite often there's 6 or 7 or 8 disciplines just involved in that. And quite often it's the architect that is the coordinator of those disciplines. Great firm coalitions. Typically a project team on a significant project is made up of 5, 6, or 7 different firms. And also firms are coming together and merging and acquiring and doing all kinds of things. And you're finding that, I talked about the mega firm in a few minutes ago. I mean, firms are now moving from 100 people to sometimes thousands of people. Individual expertise will always be prized. Within the system, you as an individual have something to offer them. If you don't have something special to offer them, you're not going to be prized within that organization. So the individual expertise and the expertise that you bring personally to the table will help chart your future. Global practice. It's very, very clear that the future of our profession is global. I'm going to, that's not Shanghai, but I'm going to Shanghai, which has a tower similar to that. If you go to China today, and particularly to a place like Shanghai, which is the most Western city I've ever been in my life, I mean, it is, if you think of cities like Phoenix or Houston as Western cities in the Western model, Shanghai is just like those cities on steroids. It's just really amazing to see how practice is happening. Now I'm going to show you one of our alums in a minute that's doing the second tallest building in the world, the Shanghai Tower. And he said that at the interview to get the Shanghai Tower, and they got down to 2 firms, his firm Gensler, big firm, well-known, and Norman Foster out of England, another big, well-known firm. One of the questions asked in the interview by the client in China was, tell us how you are going to keep the project in design and production 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the only way to do that, the answer, and Gensler had the answer and got the job, is we are going to move the project around our international network during the day electronically. So the project's you're going to wake up in the morning in Shanghai and work your 8-hour day. It's going to move to our office in London, and then it's going to move to our office in San Francisco, and then it's going to move back to Shanghai. And the project, the professionals are working from all over the world on the same project, but that's the way that they keep it in production and design 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's what it takes to get this building, which is a huge building, and I'll show it to you in a minute, into design and production. Increasingly, design's going to happen in urban settings. The vast majority of the world, 75% of the world now lives in cities. And it's a growing percentage. People are coming out of the countryside to live in cities, which means that most of the work that we do, despite the fact of what you see in the magazines, these little private houses that are out in the wilderness, most of the work is actually in cities. And last, the firms have to be really agile. They have to be able to turn on a dime. The recession has said this, and one of their quotes is, we may even redefine what design means. That for an architect, it used to be, if you took the central definition of architecture, it was the design, development, doing the documents for and overseeing the construction of a building or a space. They're saying design the way it may be redefined in the 21st century may not involve a building. We may work with a client and solve their problems by showing them how not to do a building. We may help them to improve their organization. We may be problem solvers in the design of their organization, not the design of the building to house that organization. We may show them how to live in less space, not more space. Because that's what the clients are demanding. That's the way the profession is going. We're problem solvers. We're not just building designers. This is Dan Winey. He's the managing principal of Gensler Pacific Northwest and Asia region. He's in charge of San Francisco, Los Angeles, Costa Rica, Beijing, Shanghai and Hong Kong, to name a few other offices that are under his control. And he's one of our graduates at Lawrence Tech. He was our alumnus of the year this year, and that's his building right there in Shanghai. And it's the second tallest building in the world. They flirted with, did they want to become the tallest building in the world? And they said, no, we don't want to, because we'd rather do something that is memorable for China rather than just the tallest building in the world. This is a LEED Platinum building. It has, it generates its own energy. It has wind turbines, and I mean, it has all the bells and whistles. Every 14th floor has a park, an indoor park, part of the project. And they conceived of this in a very, very adventuresome structural kind of configuration. But this is the work that Gensler's doing, and it's an office of well, I don't know how many people they have today. It was as high as 6,000 before the recession. Maybe a little bit less than that now, but they are the largest pure design firm, meaning not having any engineers associated with them in the world today. And they're actually very active hiring people right now too, which is kind of nice. But we are, I'm going to China to meet with Dan, and he's going to put us together with 6 or 7 other firms in China, in Shanghai, to pull together internships for our graduate students in Shanghai under a new program that's operating, because we believe that if you're going to be practicing globally, you better have some global experience, because it's going to make you much more desirable to the profession when you get out of school. Deidre Jimenez, another one of our alums. Now, she is the operations principal of Jacobs Company, which is a large multidisciplinary firm, and she's the Global Building North America principal. And her experience is kind of interesting, because she has multidisciplinary degrees. She has a degree in architecture from us and a degree in interior architecture from us. So she worked in both areas, and truly her forte, though, is management. And so she manages this big multidisciplinary organization, about 60,000 people worldwide. And this is what I talked about, big firms, multidisciplinary organizations. This is one of the personifications of that. So, you know, from the Fountainhead, a sole person, you never saw anyone working with Howard Rourke in the Fountainhead. He always did all of his projects alone, to 60,000 people. Really a big difference in the way that we perceive practice and undertake practice today. One of our other alums, and I don't know if you ever heard of him, Victor Soroki, and he is a community leader. He is specialized. He does boutique practice. He has a practice of 14 people, and he never wants to get any bigger. Never wants to get any bigger than 14 people. It takes a lot of work not to get bigger than 14 people, because when you're really good, you have a lot of people that want to come and give you more work. Nope, I just want to be 14 people. Birmingham, Michigan practice. And he wants to do all high quality work. This is the Forest Grill, which is in Birmingham. And it won great design awards last year, and also was Restaurant of the Year in the whole Detroit metropolitan region. So he likes to do these boutique practices, boutique housing, boutique hotels, and that's what his practice is all about. And he's developing quite a reputation even nationally on these things. So you can see all the different modes and methods of practice. They're all very different, from the boutique practices to the big multidisciplinary practices to the global practices. You know, all of that kind of stuff is what's happening in the profession today. It's possible for you as a student, when you graduate, to maybe spend a couple of years on a project in New York, and then a couple more years on a project in Hong Kong or Shanghai, and then something in Abu Dhabi. That may be your world. Not my world, but it's going to be your world. And be prepared for that. But it takes different skills than the skills that I was trained with, or David and I were trained with. So when you finish here, you're going to have to decide whether you want to move on. Okay? You're going to have to select a college to continue your, if you want to become a licensed professional in any one of the fields, you're going to have to decide where to go. So here's where the commercial starts, just a little bit, if that's okay. And the thing that I want to tell you is not all colleges are alike. In fact, they're quite different. Give you a feeling for this. This is just at architecture schools. There are 4 types of architecture schools in the United States today. By far the biggest group of schools are the research and theory schools. And there's University of Michigan, one of the great research and theory schools. I mean, truly. I mean, I'm saying this with great admiration for University of Michigan. They're one of the best research and theory schools in the United States. Practice-oriented schools. Here are our peers, Lawrence Technological University. By the way, this represents about 65% of all architecture schools in the country, are research and theory schools. When I was going to school, it was 80% of all the schools were practice schools, including University of Michigan at the time. When you were there, it was a practice school, right, David? Now it's a research and theory school. Along with, you'll find the Ivy League schools and almost all the public schools of architecture. Now, why is it that public schools would be the research schools? They have this thing called, in part, the state funding formula. Anyone in higher education knows about the state funding formula. When we were in school, David and I, the states would back the higher education to the tune of 75, 80%. Of the cost of educating a student would come from the state government. So about 20 years ago, it was down to maybe 25%. Round numbers, depends on the state. Just in the conference that I went to just recently, it's down to 12 to 15% now. So they went from state funded to state supported, and now what they say, we're state located. We have all the problems of being a part of state government because they won't let us raise our tuition to cover costs or anything like that. But we don't have the benefits of them funding us to any great degree anymore. So they have to rely on three things. Number one, they can't raise their tuition a certain amount. They have to rely on philanthropy and grants. Philanthropy, someone giving money to them. And the other thing, grants. Well, grants quite often come from research. And here's what has happened with primarily the state schools in the United States. And most of the architecture schools are, in fact, in state schools. They, to get these research grants, quite often National Science Foundation, people like that, require you to have a PhD. The primary researcher has to have a PhD or you don't get the grant. So the schools are all hiring PhDs. And they primarily work with graduate students and they work on their research projects. So if you go to one of those schools, chances are, as an undergraduate, you're being taught by a graduate teaching assistant while the professor is working with graduate students on their research grant. It's the model. It's just the model. You have to face that. And the people that are teaching in those schools are the PhDs that are doing research have probably never practiced because most PhDs, very few of them do practice. Most of them don't practice. So you have a school that is driven towards practice. All the students are being taught by, school driven towards research. The students are being taught by researchers, mostly the graduate students, and then the graduate students that are teaching the undergraduates are being taught by the professors who haven't had no practice. So you have a bunch of people who've never practiced teaching a bunch of people their model, which is research. So that's why you have research and theory schools. They teach theory, they teach research, but they don't teach practice. If a student comes to us, and we get quite a few students that come to us after University of Michigan, they have to take remedial design studios and remedial structures classes and remedial professional practice classes just to come to our school for graduate school. In the practice school, give you a feeling for this. We have 110 faculty members at our school. We have about 1,000 students, 110 faculty members, 20 of which are full-time, 90 of which are adjunct. Now, an adjunct faculty member is a part-time faculty member who practices. Most of our full-time faculty, including myself, have extensive practice. So we're a practice school where you're going to learn from practitioners who are still practicing. And they bring practice into the studio, into the classroom, every single class. So that when you go to one of these schools, us, Pratt Institute, Boston Architectural College, Drexel, New York Institute of Technology, University of Southern California, which is kind of quickly becoming a research school now. It's moving rapidly. But you're going to learn about the practice of your profession and not just about the theory and not just how to do research. So you have to decide what you want to do. If you want to practice in a design profession, go to a practice school. There's a number of reasons why you should go to a research school. If you want to do research, if you want to teach in a research-oriented school, if you want to write about architecture and design, if you want to do all those things, you're better off in a research school than with us. But if you want to practice, you want to get a license to practice, you're better off at a school like ours, one of those schools. There's other kinds of schools, art emphasis schools like Savannah College of Art and Design, Rhode Island School School of Design. Parsons, Parsons where they do Project Runway. Everyone know about Project Runway? Yeah? You can't, who's ever seen Project Runway? Come on. Okay. Okay, that's an art school environment. And you even go to the architecture classes, and they look like the designers in Project Runway. It's kind of fun. And then you have a few niche theory schools in the country. One, the Frank Lloyd Wright School of Architecture. Guess what they teach? They teach about Frank Lloyd Wright. It's a graduate school only. The whole graduate school is 25 students. It's in Scottsdale. Illinois Institute of Technology, they teach the theories and philosophies of Mies van der Rohe, still. He was the founding dean of the school, and he's still revered and still governs their curriculum. University of Miami, a recent niche theory school. They're now teaching new urbanism as a specialty because of their dean being one of the key new urbanists. University of Notre Dame, not too far from here, right? They are a historicist school. They teach about historical architectural forms. So the bottom line is, whatever you want to do for your career, you have to choose the right school. So if you go here for a couple of years and you're going to transfer to another school to continue your design education, make sure you choose the right school. And it may not be us. Fully here to admit it isn't us, perhaps, but if you want to practice architecture and study in the state of Michigan, it is us. It is us. So just to give you a feeling, one of the things that we think is really important at our school is we have a series of disciplines in our school. And when you come into our environment, it's a very rich and engaged cross-disciplinary environment, just like in practice. We were talking earlier about architecture and interior design. They're really part of the same profession. In our school, these are the programs that are in our school. And it's this kind of rich mix. I come from Louisiana. We call it a gumbo kind of school. You put in all the ingredients and you let it cook for a long time, and it mixes up so nicely. But it's a multidisciplinary design school. So you're always going to confront people from different disciplines and even work with them in teams. In architecture, we offer Bachelor of Science in Architecture, and that's a non-accredited degree, the Bachelor of Science. To get licensed, you need the accredited degree, which is the Master of Architecture. But they flow one right into the other. We're about to make changes to a 5-year master's degree, at which point our articulation agreement that we have would go 2 years at Grand Rapids, 3 years master's degree, 3 years plus the summer master's degree. So after you leave here, you're actually in a master's program. Right now it's the Bachelor of Science of Architecture. We also have a Master of Urban Design, which is a combination of architecture and city planning. Interior Architecture, which is our undergraduate accredited degree, and Interior Design, which is really a finishing school for us in interior architecture, interior design. And for people that want to practice, this is their degree. For people that want to teach, they go on and get the interior design degree. Imaging and graphic design. And this is two-dimensional graphics. And I know you all have some graphic arts, graphic design here. This would be like for magazine, journalism, print, that sort of thing. It's two-dimensional. And we're actually spinning off an environmental graphics program for this at graduate level, which is a combination of graphic design and architecture. It's a new specialty in the field. And in fact, it's very possible for someone to get either the Bachelor of Science or the Master's degree and then get the environmental graphics degree. And it's such a specialty group that people are actually fairly well compensated with that specialization of knowing how to do lighting and signage and those sorts of things in buildings. And then digital art, which is three-dimensional graphics. So it does a lot of computer animations and things like that in this program. And we have a new program in game art, the development and theming of video games, video game characters. Transportation design, we're about to graduate our first class in transportation design. And actually, our first class is only four seniors, and they all have jobs in the profession already. Average starting salary over $60,000. And including, and this is truly a global profession, a couple of them in Detroit, but one of them is even going to Germany. Got his job offer in Germany. So this is a really interesting profession. And we're just spinning off from that an industrial design program, or the design of products. But this is that richness of design environment that you find in our college, and you deal with all these people from different disciplines, and you form teams together. I was talking to an architecture student that worked on this project with the transportation designers, and it was a challenge from the Ford Motor Company to create what the new Model T car. Model T was a new car for the masses. This is a car that was costed out at $6,000 per unit delivered, and so it was a whole theory and strategy. A new degree for us now. Also, we're in our second year is architectural engineering, the combining of engineering and architecture. So if if you're an architect or you're a strong architectural student, but you're highly quantitative, this is a good program for you because you work in the teams with architects, and you're working on building systems, building mechanical systems, building lighting systems, electrical systems, structural systems, and you're part of that architectural team, and it's all the guts of the building. So this is, again, that richness of environment. One of the things that's really important when you go to the profession, when you leave here and say, I want to go to the profession, and I want to go get a degree in that profession, let me tell you what I used to be I was a principal in a fairly major firm. We had about 250 employees in the firm. And one of the things that I got to do, since I was already in education, I got to screen a lot of the students' resumes. So starting about March, we'd get a trickle in, maybe 30 a week. By April, we'd get 100 a week. By May, we'd get 200 a week. You know, all in all, we'd have over 1,000 resumes. We knew we were going to hire 3 of those people. 3. Okay. Their firms, by the way, I mean, everyone in those days was getting jobs. So that's not the issue. But if you want to work for a leading firm, you have to shine, you know. And so, you know, you're talking about maybe 1% chance of getting with our firm anyway, and with a leading firm, maybe 5% chance. Okay. How do you separate yourself from the masses? That's the key in positioning yourself in the profession. How do you separate yourself from those 1,000 people? Well, one of the ways you separate is leadership. And people want to hire leaders. They don't want to hire, I mean, you can be a technician, and you can get a job in a technician. You can make an okay living in a technician. But if you want to do things like Dan Winey's doing, you have to be a leader. So we have put into our school, and if you transfer to us, we have the Architecture and Design Leadership Portfolio. It's part of our leadership program. And in addition to your design portfolio that every designer has to have, you're going to have a leadership portfolio that goes along parallel with it. And it's going to show those people that you're going to meet with for your job how you've worked in teams. Remember I said that architecture is a teamwork thing? How have you worked in teams? So what's your teamwork experience, working in leading teams and working within a team framework? You're going to show them about your urban experience. You know, how have I worked in cities? Because 75% or more of the work is going to be in urban settings. You're going to show them a cross-cultural experience. We would have said global, but we know that it's hard for everyone to go global before they graduate because there's a cost to doing that. But we want you to work across cultures. I mean, if you're sitting where we are in the Detroit area, it's a very rich cultural area. You can work with neighborhoods in Detroit or neighborhoods in Dearborn, and they may not be speaking English as a first language in some places in Dearborn, Michigan. And so you're dealing with a true cross-cultural experience. And we think that everyone needs to be involved with something bigger than just themselves. So we believe service learning, the ability to contribute to others, is really important. These are some projects that we worked on. This is a habitat house that our students are doing. That actually is part teamwork and part service. This is the solar decathlon, which our school participated in Washington, D.C. And it's also teamwork, it was urban, and it was service. This is a project where some of our students worked with a school district in Plymouth to develop a model city program. That's certainly service learning. And that's also urban since it was city. So there are numbers of different ways, and we provide you those opportunities to work in all of those areas. Also, I said that the profession is moving global. Now, when I came to our college, this is now my 6th year, so when I came just a little bit more than 5 years ago, we had one program, one study abroad program in Paris. And it was a good program. Still is a good program. But the program I just described is the global practice concentration at our master's degree level. Remember, the master's degree is what you need to get a license to practice architecture, the master's degree, not the bachelor's degree. And one of our options is going to be called the Global Management Practice Concentration. And in that, you're going to learn how global businesses operate. And one of the requirements is that you either work, preferably, or study abroad while taking courses not only in design, but courses in global management. So we think it's the only program in the United States that we can find that actually has global practice management at its core. There are a lot of schools that have study abroad options. Let's go study abroad and learn the theories of what made Le Corbusier tick, you know. But truly, how to manage projects within that global context is what this concentrates on. The Paris studio, which we send about 18 to 20 students a year to Paris for a month. I taught that studio once, and it's a life-changing experience to go live in a city like Paris. Summer abroad travel experience, typically in Europe. We're sending two groups out this year, one to Europe, it'll be London, the second one to Egypt, which is not Europe. But we sent them to Greece, we sent them to Italy, Spain, France. This year is going to be London. I just want to tell you, as a student at Grand Rapids Community College, under this partnership agreement, freshmen or sophomores can take this trip with us. So if you have an interest in going abroad, this is about a week and a half trip. You can take it for credit, or you can take it just for the sake of doing the trip, and you can have some of that global awareness that comes into that. So you'll be eligible for that. We'll get David some information, and he'll give it to you. We have a whole semester abroad for students that want to live abroad for a half a year, and they study in Florence. Then we have joint studios in China and Korea that we run every summer. We have done exhibitions with colleges abroad. We just did one in Shanghai last year with a college. And we're investigating right now Harlexton College in England, which is like, it's a small college that is a coalition of about 15 to 20 colleges in the United States. And they've all come together in this Harlexton College, and it's like studying at Hogwarts. I mean, literally. It's this English manor. It's just beautiful in the countryside. Here you see our students at the automotive show in Paris a couple of years ago. And this guy right here is Giugiaro Giugiaro, one of arguably the most famous automotive designer in the world. He's the rock star of automotive designers. And he was meeting with our students in a seminar right there on the floor of the auto show. His claim to fame is he put Ferrari design on the map. These are our students. This is the group that I took several years ago to Paris, and they are posing for a picture. And then this is Shanghai, and this is old Shanghai, and it's just a wonderful old city. New Shanghai is quite different, an area called Pudong. It's important when you look at schools to look at the qualifications of the faculty. Faculty are your mentors as you're going through school. These are our full-time faculty members, and this is just what they did last year. And this is really important stuff to understand that these are people that are publishing in the business, that they're giving papers at conferences, that they're winning awards, that they're winning patents and trademarks, they're doing a number of grants, they're doing professional projects, and they're serving the community. We can't ask you to do that unless we're doing it. We can't ask you to excel unless our people are excelling. You lack credibility if you're just going to sit down and ask other people to do things that you're not willing to do yourself. But the other thing is, we think it's important for our students to also excel. Think of that resume. Remember, if you have this portfolio, this leadership portfolio that goes out, that's going to be terrific. You're going to be able to differentiate yourself. What if you said, in addition to that, oh, I won first place award in a competition, in an international competition. You know, I came out first place if you're an interior designer in the interior design competition in Michigan. So we attempt to get our students, whether it's in architecture or in transportation design or graphic design, we put them in the position to succeed in national and international competitions so they can build their own resumes. We think that that's a really important part of a design education. In terms of other experiences, do you all have an AIAS chapter here? American Institute of Architecture students? We got to start one. Okay, well, we have to start AIAS, which is the AIAS, which is the Architecture Student Chapter, and it's just a way of networking with a whole national network of students, and they do community service projects and a lot of things. We just had an auction for them last week, and the student organization. What? Yeah. Now you can do it, and our students will work with your students to help set up that chapter for you. We think that's really important to do that. And you know, we have an ASHRAE chapter, an AIGA chapter, an interiors chapter. These student organizations are what gives you the experience that, again, you put on your resume. If you can say, I was the president of the AIAS chapter at my school, that means something going out into the profession. Or as secretary, we had last week, we had our AIAS auction. And they raise it for a program called Freedom by Design, which is a program where the students work with someone with a disability, typically a wheelchair-oriented disability, to gain access to their home. So they're building ramps, they're renovating their bathrooms, they're renovating their kitchen, and they need money to do it. So last week we had an auction that was associated with our lecture by architect Michael Graves. We had 150 people that came for the auction, and they raised over $10,000 to support the cause. And so, you know, really an element of pride that they can do this. If you choose to just get our Bachelor of Science and then go on to another school, we have a record of placing our students in Harvard, Georgia Tech, Pratt, SciArc, the best schools in the country. Love to have our students. We love to have you too, but some people feel like they want to move to a different school and different kind of environment. And our students are readily acceptable at schools all over the United States, if not all over the world. And a number of community service kinds of activities. One of the things that we believe in too is to show our student work, and this is our publication. In fact, we have a new one that just came out. This is MASS, which is our student architectural publication, and I'm going to leave it down here. I left some copies with you in the office, so we hope that this is by students for students. The students not only designed the work, but they also prepared the publication. And this is Title, which is our arts publication, and it's all of our fine arts programs, from transportation design to graphic design. So if you want to see these afterwards, please come down and see it. This is our lecture series poster, and I've been promised that it's going to be hanging up. You're invited to any of our lecture series. You're part of our family. So we had 550 people last week for Michael Graves. So it was a really, really, really nice lecture. And we still have several left. Taylor Manilow, she's one of our first graduates in transportation design. She came to us 18 years old, and she's leaving with a job in hand. She's going to be one of our first transportation design superstars. People in the industry are telling us she has superstar written all over her. They had a challenge, again, from Ford to develop a new kind of urban car for the city of Paris. And Taylor came up with a stackable car unit for the city of Paris near subway stops. So you'd find these cars stacked up. They're very lightweight. You can get around the city. So you take the subway to a stop. If you have to run something outside of the city, you take one of these cars, you buy into it. It's part of a rental system. You drive wherever you want to go do, and you can return it to another subway stop or to the same subway stop. She blogged about this, and a magazine in France picked up the blog, and she's been published. She's published in an international publication with her ideas by the time she's a junior in college. Go figure. She's going to be a superstar, absolutely. She has it, and you know, she came to us as an 18-year-old student. Really important that you get the right skills when you're going to go to a design school. And hopefully you're engaging these skills right now. And I know you are, because you're going to be involved in our curriculum, because your first 2 years curriculum in architecture are the same 2 years that we offer. But when you're, when you're preparing for school and in your first couple of years, you should be looking for a mixture of art, technology, and sciences. And to be an architect, to be in any of these areas, that's what you need. So art, how many people could draw well by hand? Okay, only about half of you. How many people can't draw well by hand? So the rest of you can't draw at all? Like total of 5 people held up their hands either one way or the other. You got to be able to draw by hand. If you want to engage the architectural profession, hand drawing is the way the design is still created. So I mean,
Keep our manual course?
you must keep your manual course, but like this,
Oh yeah, for sketching.
sketching, drawing like this, much more. I mean, I wouldn't do drafting by hand anymore. Drawing like that is not where it's at. You know, that can be done like this, right? But like this, drawing like this, and let me tell you why. I can't tell you how many times I'm out with a client, and you know, they pull out a napkin or an envelope and they say, "Oh, I have this idea. Let's sketch something out." And you're at dinner with them, you know. I was facilitating a group in Chicago about 6 years ago or so, and it was to come up with design ideas for certain sites in the Chicago area, and it was architects, developers, landscape architects, community activists, the whole group, multidisciplinary group, and I had a group of 14 people, and I had to facilitate this design solution. And one of the challenges was you have to do a site analysis. The first thing you had to do was a site analysis. And I had a young architect, about 20, 25, 26 years old, graduated from an architecture school. I don't even know which one. Don't even want to know which one after I tell you what I'm going to tell you. So I said, okay, I'm glad I have an architect here. I went up to him and said, can you take these 4 people and do the site analysis? And he said, no, I can't. I said, well, you know, there's rolls of paper there. There's the site maps and with an instruction of what kind of maps you have to generate. He says, I can't do it. I said, well, why not? He said, I can't draw. I said, wait, you have a degree in architecture, right? And he said, yeah. I said, well, how could you get out of an architecture school without knowing how to draw? He said, I draw by computer. I said, that's the only way you draw? He said, yeah, that's the only way I draw. And so I said, well, let me, just hypothetically, took him aside so as not to embarrass him in public, but I needed to embarrass him in private. I took him aside and said, now wait a minute. You're at a restaurant with this big name developer who pulls an envelope out of his pocket and says, I have this idea. Let's sketch something out on this envelope or this piece of paper. What are you going to do? And he says, I'm going to tell him to wait here while I go and get my computer. And I said, when you get back, he's not going to be there. He's going to go find an architect who can draw. It's really important to sketch and draw and be able to be articulate in your ideas. And if you don't know how to do it, practice it. Practice it. It's very, very important. Otherwise, you will be a technician, and you can be a good technician. You can make a decent living at it, but you're not going to be a designer. You'll never be a designer unless you can draw like this. In terms of computers, everyone has to know, you know, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, those standard kind of Microsoft programs, or their comparables in Macintosh. In architecture and interior architecture, everyone has to know AutoCAD, and now increasingly you need to know Revit. In fact, at our school, I have to tell you this, we're going to drop AutoCAD as a course that we're going to teach. We're going to assume everyone has it coming into school. How many people know AutoCAD already? See, everyone knows AutoCAD just about.
Ask them how many know Revit.
How many people know Revit? All right, pretty good. Revit it's clear Revit is where the profession's going. And 5 years from now, AutoCAD probably won't exist. So we don't want to teach something to freshmen or sophomores that won't exist by the time they graduate. So we're moving to Revit. Imaging, transportation design, Photoshop. It's going to be all about Photoshop and Illustrator, in addition to InDesign and perhaps some AutoCAD. But they're getting into Alias and CATIA as their modeling programs. We'll teach that here. We'll teach that in the school. In terms of basic college prep, and you're going to get this in your first 2 years of curriculum here, general humanities, English and history, you're going to get all that stuff. Mathematics and sciences, and you're going to get up to pre-calculus and mathematics, yeah, and physics. And so you're going to have all that by the time you transfer to us. If you're a high school student, you need all this stuff coming into school. It's really important to have that. How many people here are high school students? One. Okay. You need all the stuff coming into school if you want to be an architect. I'm nearing the end of this, and I just, this is a student of ours that We're really lucky. I mean, we have alums all over the country. One of our alums is the vice president for facilities at Disney Corporation in Orlando. And so he's reached out to us, and he gives our students a couple of internships each year. And this is one of our students, Andrew, who went down to Disney last year, and then he extended through the summer, and he took basically a whole year off to work for Disney. Again, it's okay to extend your education if you're working at a place like Disney. I mean, talk about a resume. I worked for Walt Disney Corporation in Orlando. Put that on your resume and try and get a job. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. So don't worry about finishing your education in 5 years in one summer. If that extra year is a year working at Disney or a year working in Shanghai or wherever, that just adds to your allure, to your credentials. But he was talking in his blog that he was busy with work, but he was also taking online classes through us, and that's what we do offer for people that are abroad. We have one whole master's degree program that if you have our bachelor's of science degree, you can do the entire master's program online.
Is that true in architecture?
It's architecture, yeah, that's what it is, including an architectural studio online. We're pioneering that at our school right now. Yeah, we do have one studio that you have to take in the summer. You have to come in 4 times for it, but that's 4 trips in is all you have to do to get that degree online. But mostly he said that our college provided him the ability to make the transition to a real world scenario. Now, what is he defining here? He's defining what the difference between a practice-oriented school and a theory-oriented school is all about. That we got him into the real world. We allowed him to go into a place like Disney and hit the ground running. And that's what the people in the profession are looking for. Let me count the numbers of jobs for theorists in the profession today. David, how many do you think there'd be?
Well, all I can remember is when I was competing against Lawrence Tech, and I was from U of M, I wish I had more of Lawrence Tech training. So it was always you had to learn by the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
It's really helpful when you have more of those skills when you go into the workforce.
Yeah, it's no mistake that our school corners the market in terms of jobs in the state of Michigan. But we're finding that our students are going all over the country and getting jobs. And you can see Dan Winey at Gensler and Andrew in Florida. I mean, it's a good school to network through. So that's where the world is, and that's where the world of education is in architecture and design. Let's talk about this profession though too a little bit. I mean, a lot of people are saying, well, I don't know about this. You know, it's so susceptible to changes in the economy. Name something that is not susceptible to changes in the economy, except for maybe healthcare, although they're laying off people as well. They're hard pressed these days. Everything's susceptible to the economy. What you'll find is that architecture responds to the economy first, but it comes back faster than anything else. Because before the rest of the economy catches up, people that are getting their funding for buildings are already hiring architects. And if you look at construction as a way of gauging the economy, the architects are there about 1.5 to 2 years before the construction even shows up. So that's why architects are growing right now. The firms are growing right now, even though you haven't seen the economy fully come back. They're about 1.5. The economy is about 1.5 out, and the architects are just starting to get work again. But imagine this. Imagine a profession that you can't wait to get up on a Monday morning to go to work because you're so excited about what you're doing. That's what it does. I mean, if you're hitting on all cylinders in the profession of design, and it doesn't matter which of those disciplines, you can't wait to get up on Monday morning and go to work. In fact, one of my greatest experiences was when we were at our firm, and I got up on Monday morning, and we got right to work because we were trying to crack this problem with a high school project we were working on, a renovation of a high school, a really difficult project because it was a crummy building that we were working with to start with. And this young student, 1 year out of school, had spent the weekend working on the project. We didn't ask him to. He just came in on his own. He solved the problem. And after we gave him his bonus for saving us a lot of time and a lot of work, I mean, it occurred to me that it's also a profession that if you find your right niche, you can solve problems from the very beginning. You're valuable right from the start. But you're valuable right from the start if you get an education that allows you to hit the ground running. And so, you know, I'm going to make the pitch for a professional school. Someone else will make a pitch for a theory-based school and a research-based school, but that's for you to decide. But I know I'm with a professional school. I'm very happy to be with one. So that's about the world of design and architecture as I see it, and about a little bit about our school. A little bit about our program, the agreement that we have. Under this agreement, you can go 2 years at Grand Rapids Community College. In the second year, you are jointly enrolled with us and with Grand Rapids. We're going to house a studio our design studio will be right here on campus. And you'll take your second year design studios with us, and you'll be our student for that studio. All the rest of your classes will be at Grand Rapids. It's a way that you can save a little money in your education because we're more expensive than Grand Rapids Community College. It used to be that you'd go here for 2 years and you'd come to us and you'd still be a sophomore student in studio. So you'd still be you'd still be at that time 3 years from, you'd go here for 2 years and you'd still be 3 years away from getting your bachelor's degree and then another 1.5 years from your master's. So this saves you a year to do it this way. And it's a great savings to you. It makes us part of your community. It makes you part of our community if you're jointly enrolled. And actually, when you're a sophomore and you're enrolled in our studio, you participate in our computer program. We have a laptop computer program. You get the laptop, and you get all the software to run on the laptop. So you're one of us. And so I'd like you to consider, if you're a student here as a freshman, to do that. If you're a sophomore, you have to determine whether to stay here for another year and you know, if you want to continue your studies here for a little longer, or whether you want to come directly to us as a junior. But you can take our studio next year here, or you can, or if you're advanced enough you have your associate's degree and all that, you can come to us next year. So that's where we stand.
Okay, thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.